Hello everyone, I'm Shar, a first year at the National Academy of Legal Studies and Research, or better known as NASA University of Law, Hyderabad, and CLAT 6 is finally over. So the focus shifts on you, the CLAT 7 aspirants. Therefore, I'm making this video, which is going to be a detailed guide on every single aspect of your CLAT preparation, starting from scratch. So let's say you've done 0 minutes worth of preparation so far and you want one complete resource for everything. Well, this video is that. And this video is specifically for freshers, that is, school going students who are just now starting the preparation, who are juggling school with CLAT. But I will make a separate video for droppers as well, because the priorities and schedule of a dropper will be very different from that of a school going student. But regardless, this is for freshers. So let's get started. Now, just before we begin, we all know that practice plays a huge role in your CLAT preparation, and that's why this portion of the video has been sponsored by CLATAI.com. CLATAI.com is an AI-based learning tool for CLAT aspirants, and it has a whole host of features that can make your preparation a lot easier. You can ask it to generate unlimited questions on every single section of the CLAT paper, including the GK section. And you can even ask it to generate questions for custom GK topics by just entering that topic. It also has an instant AI-based doubt solver where you can just load the question that you have that you want it to answer, and it will instantly answer it in a detailed step-by-step manner. You can also use CLATAI.com to explain difficult concepts to you that you don't understand, and also to give you personalized study advice based on your circumstances and what you are struggling with. And if that's not enough, you can also book one-on-one mentorship with top NLU mentors who will help you with strategies, guidance for each individual section, mock test analysis, and also with motivation and mindset. And if that's not enough, you can also book a topic-wise live one-on-one class hosted by those top NLU mentors. So let's say there's some topic that you are struggling with a little bit and you want some clarity on that. You can book a class for that, which will be for around 60 minutes. It'll give you a detailed set of study material as well, and 10 practice sets with solutions, as well as 48 hours of post-class doubt solving, all in that one class. Overall, the website does generally have a lot of very useful features, and I do personally believe in the merits of all of them as well. So make sure to take a look at clarity.com, and once again, thanks to them for sponsoring this part of the video. Now, back to the content. So let's discuss each individual section and see what you have to do for each of them. Firstly, we have the English or reading comprehension section, and honestly, I think this is the easiest section by far, simply because CLAT's English proficiency level that it asks you to have is very, very low. If you're able to understand this video without any issues, then I don't think you'll have any issues in the exam either. It's that simple. But regardless, if you still want to practice a little bit more, make it a little bit better, or if you think that your capabilities are a little lacking compared to the standard, then you can read newspapers. You can read newspapers, and just the act of reading itself will make your reading speed better. Um, and you have to start this right now. If you do lag in reading speed, um, then you have to start this right now. You can't put it off, because uh, stuff like reading speed and vocabulary, these two things aren't things that you can develop in just 1 month or 2 months or 3 or even 4 or 5 months. They take a lot of time, and right now you have that time. You have a whole year to make these things better. So if you are lacking in reading speed or in vocabulary, you have to start working on these things right now. So just the act of reading a newspaper itself will improve your reading speed. And then while you are reading it, I want you to be on the lookout for um, unique words, uncommon words, the words that you don't know the meaning of. And I want you to, of course, find the meaning of those words, but then deconstruct those words. As in, you take that original word, and after you figure out the meaning of it, you deconstruct it into the individual parts that form up that word. For example, let's take the word international. International means between two countries or two or more countries. So if you divide that word international, international, inter means between two things, and two or more things, and national means relating to a nation or country. So international therefore means between two or more countries. So now that you know that, you can then take the roots inter and national and then use those in other contexts with other words. For example, you can take inter and you can use that with intercity, interstate, intercountry, intergalactic, intercontinental. Um, and if you just know the meanings of all those words, city, state, continental, galactic, all those things, you can use this and create a new word entirely from two separate words. There you go. And that exponentially increases your vocabulary. So you don't need to memorize those words. You don't need to memorize what intergalactic means. If you just know what inter means and what galactic means. Next is the current affairs and general knowledge section. And honestly, this is the second easiest section as well. Simply because CLAT, given its format, can only ask you 5 or 6 topics since it's a passage based exam. So those 5 or 6 topics tend to be the most important ones. CLAT won't ask you niche or random things. But I would still recommend reading a compendium specifically because those other bits of information will come in handy for OLITs because OLITs are entirely one-liners, and therefore if they have 30 questions, for example, they can ask you 30 topics. If they have 50 questions, they can ask you 50 topics. So there, that niche information does come useful, but not necessarily for CLAT. I don't think the compendiums are out yet for December. So what you can instead do for this period is focus on the static GK part until the December compendiums come out. For static GK, I would recommend the class 12th NCRT history textbooks. There are three. The first is for ancient Indian history. There's one for medieval Indian history and one for modern Indian history. CLAT tends to ask you history, specifically Indian history, specifically modern Indian history. So that is your priority right now. After you're done with that, then you do the other two periods, and then you can go on world history, political science, geography, economics, natural sciences, whatever. But that is the most important one. And there you can find a lot of free one-shot videos on YouTube as well for each of those three books for like 2 or 3 hours per book. And if you don't want to read the books, then you can just watch those one shots, and that'll be enough. Not for boards, but for CLAT, sure, definitely. So that's how you'll do static GK as well. And after that, you can do the current affairs compendium. I don't think it'll take you more than one day, maximum 1 week for starting GK. Then you can, after the compendiums come out, you can immediately shift to the compendiums, read them, reread them, revise them, whatever you have to do. And make sure that you don't let a compendium backlog build. That is the biggest and yet the silliest mistake that a lot of aspirants make. Start early and stay consistent. You will never have a backlog of compendiums. Like the only two reasons that people have backlogs is that A, they didn't start in time and therefore they have some months' compendiums left behind them, or B, they were inconsistent and therefore they skipped some months' compendium. You can't be doing either of those things. So read the December compendiums as soon as they come out. You have around 1 month till the January compendiums come out. You have that time frame, and that's more than enough as well. You can easily do it in that time. Read it, reread it, make notes, whatever you have to do. Next is the logical reasoning section, and this is the section which has been changed the most from the previous years. Because we were expecting CR this time, but we didn't get any CR. We were given entirely AR. Um, so, and that is despite the fact that in the previous years before CLAT 6 and before CLAT 5, every single passage was CR based. But my CLAT 5 had one AR passage, and then CLAT 6 has no CR passages. So, given this unpredictability of the consortium, you have to do both. You have to do CR as well as AR. It's honestly a good thing because before this, the preparation for CLAT logical reasoning and OLIT's logical reasoning was entirely separate. CLAT was CR, OLIT's were AR. But now they are both the same, at least for the AR part. You still have to do CR separately, but AR दोनों में आ रहा है. So in a way that streamlines your preparation and makes your preparation for OLIT stronger as well. So it's a good thing in my opinion. Um, Now what AR is analytical reasoning. AR includes the things that you generally associate with logical reasoning. For example, coding, decoding, blood relations, sequences, seating arrangements, like the CAT exam basically, but a little bit lower than that in terms of difficulty. Critical reasoning is you're given a passage and you have to figure out the main idea of the passage, the main arguments presented in the passage, what could be strengthening those arguments, what could be weakening those arguments, what are some of the inferences you can draw from the passage, what are some of the assumptions in the passage, those sorts of things. Now, the way to do these is um, take 1 week. That I think even 1 week is too much, but take 1 week, figure out all your concepts properly. I think it'll take you 1 day for CR, and the rest you can do for AR. Um, you can find a lot of free videos on YouTube for all of these things, for every single AR topic out there, for every single CR topic out there. Or if you're in the coaching, you can get your classes as well. And after that 1 week is done, I think the rest of your preparation till the day of the CLAT exam should be entirely practice, because given the CLAT is such a application intensive exam, such an application intensive exam, um, the bulk of preparation necessarily has to be about application and therefore about practice. So what you have to do is after that 1 week, you start practicing, you look at the mistakes you've made, you then fix those mistakes by practicing again, you make more mistakes, you then fix those mistakes, then you make more mistakes, and it's a cycle. It keeps going on and on until the day of the exam. That is how the majority of preparation is going to be for logical reasoning, legal reasoning, and mathematics as well. But I'll get to those two later on. For logical reasoning, you take that 1 week, and after that, intermittently you can revise the concepts, but the majority of preparation should be attempting sectional tests and mock tests or question banks. I'll talk about mock tests a little bit later as well, but that's it for logical reasoning. Then you have legal reasoning. Legal reasoning is also a little bit changed from the previous years, because although the consortium says you won't need to have any extra legal knowledge to attempt these questions, in my CLAT and in this year's CLAT, you were expected to have some legal knowledge. So now you can't take that risk anymore. So you do need to prepare legal knowledge and legal reasoning both. Now, legal knowledge is very simple, some basic major laws. Again, you'll find videos on YouTube for free or in your classes, in your coaching. Um, IPC, BNS, PSA, BNSS, CRPC, CPC, Transfer Property Act, those sorts of things. Then legal reasoning is you're given a passage of some legal statute, case, whatever, some principle. Then you have 5 or 6 situations, questions, which have situations in them. And you have to apply the concepts from the passage in those situations, in those cases, and that's legal reasoning. So this doesn't take any conceptual background. You won't have to learn anything before to do legal reasoning, but legal knowledge वही करना पड़ेगा. So and legal knowledge also has a benefit that if by chance a passage comes about something that you've already memorized from legal knowledge, you can just skip reading that passage, and that'll save you a lot of precious moments, because CLAT is so heavily, time constrained. You need every minute that you can get, so that will be beneficial that way as well. But since legal reasoning doesn't take any conceptual background, I think you can start practicing this from this moment itself. You can do this and legal knowledge simultaneously until legal knowledge is completed, which I think it shouldn't take you more than a month at max. And then you can just focus on practicing similar to logical reasoning, mock tests, sectional tests, all those things. Practice, make mistakes, more practice, more mistakes. Lastly, we have the QT section. QT is also fairly simple, very, very easy. I would say it's 8th grade maths, because the main topics that come are only percentages and ratios and proportions, which is very, very simple. It can be calculation intensive, sure, but the concepts themselves are very, very simple. Um, there can be other topics as well: mensuration, profit and loss, simple interest, compound interest, work, time, distance, speed, those sorts of things. But by far, 95% of the questions will be percentages or ratios and proportions, or something simple like that. This year was entirely percentages. Um, so this should be your priority. Like most of your practice should be devoted to these things. And given that they're so simple in terms of concepts, most of my preparation should be practice and not concepts. Because गलतियां कहीं करोगे तो फिर it'll be silly mistakes, it'll be calculation errors, it'll be errors in the application, in the practice. So you can only fix them by practicing more. And maths is something जो कि बहुत ज़्यादा practice करने से ही ठीक होती है. I remember very, very vividly, I used to make a lot of silly mistakes while preparing for this, and even my 10th boards में जो maths था, a lot of silly mistakes, calculation mistakes. It just happens. You have to prepare, you have to practice a lot to iron out those errors. But yeah, maths is very easy as well. If you do want to prepare the extra topics, not extra necessarily, but the less important topics, again, you'll find a lot of videos on YouTube or in your coaching. There's a lot of resources available. You just need to know where to look for. Now let's talk a little bit about mock tests. Mock tests, I would recommend you should start attempting mock tests as soon as you can. Don't wait to have conceptual knowledge. Don't wait कि भाई एटलीस्ट मैं थोड़ा पढ़ लूँ तभी अटेम्प्ट करूँगा वरना मुझे क्वेश्चंस आते ही नहीं होंगे. No, don't do that. Because you need to develop the habit of attempting mock tests. You need to develop the ability, the endurance to attempt mock test. Because you have to sit for 2 hours on end reading a lot of intense stuff and then applying your mind critically, sharply to that intense stuff. And it's very tiring for your mind and your eyes, even. So, you need to gradually develop um, that endurance because you need that endurance for the exam. So I would highly suggest taking mock tests as soon as you can, and make sure you're taking them timed and you're not using a calculator. And I would recommend also taking them on a physical OMR sheet. I would recommend taking it on a physical question paper as well. But if you can't do that, fine. At least have a physical OMR sheet because that helps you account for the logistics of filling in the bubbles as well. Those take some time as well. So I would highly recommend a physical OMR sheet as well. And there's no threshold per se or goal per se कि you have to attempt this many mock tests throughout your preparation कि मुझे 70 mock tests करने हैं 40 करने हैं 100 करने हैं. I attempted 28 mock tests in my entire preparation, 5 of which were PYPs, previous year papers. There is no such thing as this कि भाई मैंने इतने mock test नहीं किए तो मेरी preparation बकवास है. What matters more than the number of mock tests is how well you're analyzing each of your mistakes that you make in the mock tests that you do attempt. So the thing is if you attempt a lot of mock tests, you won't have the time required to properly analyze your mistakes down to the bone. At that point, you're attempting mock tests just for the sake of attempting them. It's not how you should be doing it. You should be doing mock tests to figure out what are your mistakes, because that is the main purpose of a mock test. The main purpose of a mock test is not to just do it for the sake of doing it, right? And also, the second thing, don't rely on mock test scores too seriously because the difficulty level of mock tests changes wildly throughout your preparation. अभी easy है बाद में hard होगा. That's just how it is. Because I mean, think about it. The coaching institutions need to prepare you for the worst case scenario, and that's a good thing. I highly commend that. But then that means that your scores in your mock tests won't properly reflect your preparation, your preparedness in the CLAT exam. So don't look at mock scores too seriously. If anything, look at your mock rank compared to the other people more seriously, because even in the actual CLAT exam, the absolute score will vary depending on the difficulty of the exam. But the rank is the one that's more important because it's relative. Similarly, in the mock test as well, it's relative. The rank is more important, not the absolute score. So attempt mock tests as early as you can, but not just for the sake of attempting them. And don't rely on mock scores as a good measure of how prepared you are. If anything, if you need some measure, rely on your mock rank rather than your score. And with that, that's all from my side. If you enjoyed this video, Please consider subscribing to my channel and press the bell icon as well. If you have any suggestions, queries, doubts, requests, please put them in the comments below. I'll answer them either in the comments themselves, or if I think that they deserve a separate video of their own, I'll make a separate video for them as well. And with that, that's all from my side. Bye bye.